The House.
Nuk Korako.
Ai, te mana whakawā. Tēnā ra koutou nā pū waitaka o tō tātou matu tīpuna. E kāmei nui ki te mihi atu ki tō tātou matu nui te raki, koe e te timataka me te whakauteko o tau katoa. Nō reira ka mihi au ki te kai homai o ka mea pai katoa. Ka maumahara mātou ki a rātou kaitua ko wehi tau Wairoa. E nō reira e koutou rā o ia marae, o ia iwi, o ia waka, e haere e roke ki tā roa te whānui a tānei, ko tuatarai, haere, haere, haere atu rā. Nō reira, tēnā ra koutou, o nā uri o Takitimu Waka, o te whanauka o Takitimu Waka. Nei rā te mihi hōhonu ki nā uri o Takitimu Waka, o ia mai ki au ko wai te tangata e here ai kahanunu me tahu pōteki. Māku e whakahoki ko tamate pōkai whenua, nāna i piki te maunga, i tūrunga i rāpaki ki te whakakarakia ki tētahi tūhoka, ki ta hoatu te ahi hei whakamahana o nei iwi. Nō reira, nā te kahanunu me rongo mai nā wāhine, nō reira nau mai haere mai, o whare mire, nau mai whakatau mai, e mihi atu, e mihi atu, e mihi atu kia koutou katoa. E te mana whakawā, it is indeed my pleasure to be able to stand to speak on the third and final reading of the Iwi and Hapū of Te Rohe or Te Wairoa Claim Settlement Bill. And I want to acknowledge the work as the Minister who has just resumed his seat, the Honourable Andrew Little, particularly about this journey, because it was indeed in the 51st Parliament that this bill actually started its journey. And then the work through the first reading through to the submission process by the Māori Affairs Select Committee, and then through to the second reading, and then the committee stage and the third reading today. But I think what's important, I want to, for the Hansard, for the record, just to concentrate on a number of very, very important points about this particular settlement and what it is part of, because this is actually the record of Parliament which will be here forever. And the first one was to acknowledge the fact is that the Iwi and Hapū of Te Rohe o Te Wairoa and the history, particularly around the fact that they did not actually sign the Treaty of Waitangi. And the reason for it was because it was never cited by them, and so they couldn't sign it. But the other part of it is that when the war did come around, the colonial wars and the land wars, they tried very, very hard to step away from it. But I think the important thing, though, that strikes at the heart of everything we hold dear as descendants of those Christian folk, Māori and Pākehā alike, who fought each other at Omaru Hākeke Kainga on Christmas Day 1865. And for the record, that is very much where this tragedy in a lot of ways actually begins. It makes me wonder at the desperation of the Crown that it would abandon values it said it held so dear that it would decide Christmas Day was an appropriate day to kill their fellow New Zealand citizens in 1865. And that it would be willing command its Maori troops, whanoka to those who stood at the palisades across from their cousins to fight on this day held so sacred by both sides. We remember and mourn all those who fell that day, Māori and Pākehā alike. But my heart especially cries for New Zealand citizens of Māori descent looking to protect their lands from greedy hands of unscrupulous land dealers and a compliant government that the price they would pay would be death. Why was the Māori price of citizenship death for protecting the lawful property rights? Why were the people of Ngāti Kahungunu required to take sides against each other when both were seeking the same? Recognition of their inherent rights as New Zealand citizens. Because fighting for the Crown didn't protect Māori from the greedy hands of those that sought to take their whenua, and fighting against the Crown saw Māori labelled rebels on their own land when not 25 years earlier they had owned most of the country outright. Had the people of Te Rohe o Te Wairoa been allowed to take the role that they thought they would have had been able to cite the Treaty of Waitangi and sign it, had been left to their Article 2 rights to retain their land, had been treated as equal British citizens with all the legal rights to protection of their lands that entailed. If this happened, the only rebels would have been the Crown and the attendant land grabbers themselves. E te mana whakawā, it looks like their land grabs is this particular record. Is that in 1867, under duress, Wairoa Māori were required to cede 42,000 acres to the Crown despite protests from many of the iwi living in the Rohe. In 1867 and 1868, the Native Land Court continues its destructive practice of awarding Wairoa land blocks to 10 individual landowners, trusting that these individuals would act as trustees. But let's be clear, the courts knew full well that this would not occur and that 10 owners would be tempted to alienate land they owned at the expense of their own whanoka. In the 1870s, taking land for public works purposes from Iwi and Hapū of Te Rohe o Te Wairoa. The Ōpūtama compulsory taking of land from Māori while leasing land from their Pākehā neighbours as well. In 1875, the Crown acquires 178,000 acres of land near Waikare Moana by exploiting confusion about the legal status of the blocks and by paying off some iwi over others. In the 20th century, the land misused its monopoly powers by purchasing property from individual owners after the owners had collectively decided against selling. And we arrive at this point at Te Mana Whakawā, where 90% of the Iwi and Hapū live outside of Te Rohe o Te Wairoa. And for those who remain trying to maintain their ahi ka, for all their whānau have suffered serious socio-economic deprivation. So it's only right in this House, sir, that today the Crown acknowledges all of the wrongs that have actually been done to this proud iwi and Hapū. And looking at Te Hapū o Te Rohe Te Wairoa, the acknowledgement of that fateful 1865 Christmas Day attack on what was very much a breach of the Treaty of Waitangi. And so just to acknowledge the fact that in this settlement, the vesting of the important 5 first, which is the Kumi Paikare Conservation Area, Mahia Peninsula, the Local Purpose Esplanade Reserve, Morere Springs Recreation Reserve, Otoki Government Purpose Wildlife Management Reserve, and Te Reinga Scenic Reserve Property B. And the important thing is that those particular properties which are in this settlement are actually going to be part of this settlement, but also this iwi has, and the Hapū, have actually required that they also are going to be shared by New Zealanders as well, all New Zealanders. And that is mana, that is real mana. And so, e te mana whakawā, this settlement, even though the quantum has been talked about, nothing can actually, I think, right the wrong. But at least this is a very, very important step forward for this iwi and to continue now once this bill has been passed today. Nā te kahanunu, nā Hapū o Te Rohe o Wairoa, you are now here to complete the final step of your journey in this House before your settlement bill is sent to the Government House for royal assent. And then your bill will become an Act of Parliament. Many have passed on since the beginning of your hikoi to this place today, and we remember them. Relationships have been forged and relationships have been broken. But now is the time, I think, for reparation of those particular relationships. To acknowledge all of the officials, negotiators, and there are also people that have started but did not actually live to see this final day, and we remember them also. And the final part of that is that I'd like to acknowledge one person who I know worked hard on this settlement. I know the work that she did during my tenure as chair of the Māori Affairs Select Committee, because I know that she worked very, very hard for her people on this bill. E te mana whakawā, I do want to acknowledge the work of my parliamentary colleague, whanauka tuahine, the Honourable Meka Whaitere. Finally, e te mana whakawā, āpiti hono tātai hono, rātou ki te honga mate e ki te honga mate ki a rātou, āpiti hono tātai hono, tātou ki te honga ora, ki te honga ora ki a tātou. Let the dead be the dead and the living be the living. O te iwi o te rohe, o te Wairoa, Ngāti Kahanunu, rongo mā wahine, go well, tēnā koutou, e mihi ati kia koutou katoa. Kia ora.
Mr. Speaker.
Rino Tirakatme.
Kororia hareru